edition. Can you believe it? We've been doing this for 6 years now, and we are delighted that you are joining us either live here on YouTube or on one of our other channels, and or even playing it back after the event. So this is September 2021, and it is WordPress Translation Day. And I hear you say Translation Day, but you said September. Well, yes, that's the thing. We get so excited about translating WordPress. As you know, for the people who've watched us before, last year we kept going for nearly 2 months. This year we thought, well, as it's so popular, we would have 30 days of focusing on everything related to WordPress translation. If you haven't already encountered how to get involved, if you're not already what we call a polyglot, then stay tuned, because we have some wonderful people with us today who will be able to share with you just how you can get started. So, but while we get started, let me do a quick thank you to our people in our green room who are making sure it all happens, and also to the people who are in the chat. So you'll notice there is a chat box to the right of the YouTube screen. If you're watching this on WordPress.org or on Facebook, depending on your browser, you may or may not see the chat. If you want to engage with that, please go directly to YouTube and you'll be able to do that. Just a notice that everything that you put in there is live and permanent, and unfortunately we cannot delete it. So we do ask you to think about that and just enjoy your things. While people are getting started in the chat, it would be lovely if you could say hello in your local language, and if you're a translator, that would be brilliant. Tell us what you translate. Okay, see, I got diverted by the telephone ringing. So as you can see, it is definitely live. So we will have cats barking, cats meowing, dogs barking, doorbells going, and that's all the fun of the live. So let me introduce the wonderful people we have today on WordPress Translation Day opening global event. So Petya, give them everybody a wave and tell them where you are based today.
Hi, everyone. Live from Sofia, Bulgaria, yours truly. It's 5 minutes, 6 minutes after 1 p.m. here.
Thank you, Petya. And Petya is one of the global polyglot mentors, and we'll be hearing a lot more about that. But it's just one of the ways that you will find that there is so much support to be a translator. You are never on your own. There is everyone around you to help. So I'm going to go across now to the United States and to Erica.
Hi, nice to see you all virtually. I'm based in the New York area, so it is morning for me. We're literally celebrating around the world right now. So.
And thank you to Erica. And Erica is one of our community wranglers. And if you wonder what that does, that means that she's there to help everybody who contributes to the Make project really get started, find strategic direction, and just generally enjoy what they're doing. So thank you both for joining us in the studio today. And to everybody who is watching, welcome if you've just joined. And I've just been told there are more people joining, so I will say another hello. You are with us for WordPress Translation Day, 6th edition, and it is September 2021. Now, before we actually move to a wonderful presentation that Petya has, that has all the facts and figures that you could possibly want to know about translation. And believe me, I've had a sneak view of this presentation, and I can tell you there were some figures in here that really surprised me. So, but before we do that, if you haven't already nominated somebody that you think is doing amazing work in the polyglots translation, either in your locale, globally, or you think has had a brilliant start and really dedicated to what they're doing, and you want to give them a shout out, then there is on our website, wptranslationday.org, a link to the nominations that you can do up until the 30th of September. We would love to get more nominations from each and every continent, and please, you don't feel like you have to be a general translation editor to nominate anybody. I'm sure Erica will say this as well in a moment. It is open to everybody. All you've got to do is tell us a little bit about why somebody should be nominated. And thank you very much. I was just thinking, how do I type in the chat channel to ask if that can come up? I'm just going to hand over to Erica for a moment so she can tell you why the nominations are so important.
Yes, this is something I don't believe that we've done before. And this year for nominating someone, I think probably everyone who is a polyglot or contributes translations has that story of when you just got started, you had a question, maybe you didn't know where to start, you weren't sure how to start, and there was that person either globally or just within your local community who helped you there. And I think there's so many stories of people who really made a difference in that capacity. And also, you know, on the flip side, if you are someone who's mentoring people, if you've been around for a long time and you see someone who comes into your community and is translating and they have a lot of passion and enthusiasm, it's always such a great opportunity to highlight that and really let people know just how much that means for you. I think when we translate, sometimes it's like the translations kind of go out into the world, but we don't necessarily see all of the people it impacts, which is so many people, which you'll especially see in the presentation that Petya is going to share. And so this is just a really nice way to kind of bring that home and really celebrate the people around you who've helped you or who you just want to celebrate and highlight and honor their contributions.
Thank you, Erica. And in answer to the questions that I've just had pop up on my other screen, yes, you can nominate anybody you feel like, and we will try and include everybody. And this is a continuation of our contributor story series and our Be a Translator. And we really want to hear your stories. And we also hope to bring some of them to our finale event. So get your nominations in now. And for all the GTEs watching, General Translation Editors, please, please, please share this with your colleagues. Do come across to the live translation that we will start about 11 o'clock UTC, and it will be on Zoom. If you have not already signed into that, you will find a link on wptranslationday.org, and you sign into the meetup and it will give you the Zoom link for that live. So let's go and find out all the facts and figures about translation with our very wonderful Petya. Over to you.
Thank you, ladies. Thanks so much, and hello, everyone. Really excited to be here with you today. Been a little bit off for the past several years, so quite an emotional kind of comeback for me as I start and contribute again. I was a part of the first Global WordPress Translation Day. I remember that, and that was quite a few years back. And since then, we've started doing several a year, which is amazing. I can't even believe that this is the 6th one. Kudos to everyone that's ever been involved with organizing this wonderful event. It's the event that brings us together as a community and as the Polyglots community. So thank you for all the translators and everybody that's already contributing, and really a big welcome to everyone that's here for the first time. Let's look at what the state of translation is today. Let's look at who the people are that are helping us translate WordPress in so many languages across the world, and why this is important. This is what we're going to talk about today. And then if you want to get involved, which I encourage you to do, you can do it throughout September on translatewordpress.org, make.wordpress.org/polyglots, and everywhere on Slack every channel on Slack that involves the word polyglot. So let's get started. WordPress Translation Day is a translation month this month, which is an exciting thing, especially in these conditions, global conditions. And there will be events happening throughout the whole month. And this year, we've got our wonderful marketing, community, training, and core teams also involved in this initiative. And there are cross-team initiatives all over the place, which is a great place to collaborate. So thank you so much to the representatives from different teams that are getting involved. And as we know, no polyglot is just a polyglot. Like, we all contribute throughout several teams. So polyglots is a great way for you to get involved and then start your contributing path towards the broader WordPress project. There will be local events organized throughout September. Various local communities active, wonderful local communities are organizing meetups and translation sprints from the beginning of September until International Translation Day, which is on September 30th. And the global events are kicking off today with this presentation and will go throughout the month. Let's look at some of the ones that are going to be happening. On the 17th today, we've got the opening session and then the translation sprint, which, especially if you're a new first-time contributor, I strongly encourage you to stay for to see how the action happens and how translations are done. And then on the 19th, there will be a tool, a Polyglot Tools panel that I also encourage you to attend. A very interesting, amazing, and much anticipated by myself panel is going to happen on September 21st. Open source translation communities. There will be folks from various translation communities, open source communities, not just WordPress, involved with this panel. So join and see how other communities are translating and how they are localizing their software. And then on September 30th, there will be a global closing party. Details about all of these events you can follow on wptranslationday.org. Throughout the month of September, there will be updates as we get more and more details about each of these events. And then the async and Slack activities involve the community team doc sprint that is going to happen from the 20th to 24th of September. The Learn WP subtitle translation sprint, because we don't only translate WordPress and plugins and themes, we also subtitle WP TV videos and tutorials. And then there will be the new locale onboarding, which I have to ask what that's going to involve, as I'm not specifically clear, but maybe Erica can help us here with a little bit, or I see Toby in the crowd, maybe they can help us with a little bit more detail about what this event will specifically be about. There are so many amazing local teams that are already participating in WordPress Translation Day. These are some of them that are organizing local meetups. Thank you so much for putting in the effort and in these kind of challenging times, dedicating your precious time towards supporting your local communities and bringing in more people to contribute to your local WordPress translations. And because we're in the middle of the month, there's still a lot of time for each and every one of you to organize a translation sprint. Translation sprints are great. They're a good chance for people to meet locally, based on what is or is not allowed right now in these challenging conditions. But even if you sit down a couple of people in a coffee shop and open translate.wordpress.org, this can also be a local event that you organize and open for everybody that wants to get involved in your area. So I encourage you, I congratulate the ones that are already happening, and then I encourage you to organize one if there are more contributors around you. Let's look at the state of WordPress translation as of September 2021. Wow, it's been so many years since the first WordPress translation. We now have 205 locales available to translate WordPress into. Out of these, 61 core packages are released, which means that 61 locales are fully localized and usable at install for anybody that is installing WordPress for the first time. 64 additional packages are partially complete, which means that they are somewhat complete. They've got a significant amount of strings translated, but not all of them, not close to 95% of them are translated, so they are not available as a core package. They can, however, be used in another way, which we're not going to go into detail about right now. But you can look it up if you're interested, and your language is one of those that does not have a core package released. This is the distribution of locales across the world. In the Polyglots logo, you can see the locales that have active translations and that have had at least one release since they were established. The yellow dots are the locales that we have created, but that have never been translated enough to have a release package. So these are all the locales that need a lot of support and translation contributors to help them release their first package. This is the stats for the localized package releases for 2020 and 2021. We had a little bit more core packages released in 2020, but we're still in the process of releasing much more in 2021 because the year has several more months. And then who translates WordPress? This is my favorite part. Let's talk a little bit about the translation communities. We've got 18,000, more than 18,000 active translators. These are people that are contributing suggestions to different WordPress locales, and 685 of them are global translation, general translation editors. The general translation editors are the people responsible for each locale. These are the people that can mentor and add new translation contributors. These are the people that have the access to approve the string suggestions, the translation suggestions that anyone with a WordPress.org username can make on the website. The general translation editors are the ones that maintain the consistency of a translation. They hold a general responsibility for a translation being having consistency across terms and sounding genuine in the local language. Thank you so much to all the general translation editors. These are the people that invest and dedicate the most time to the Polyglots team, and these are the people that we cannot do without. Usually they are also the people organizing the local translation sprints and events. So a big thank you from my heart to everyone that invests and dedicates time towards that effort. 3,934 project translation editors. Project translation editors are the people that have access to contribute translations and approve translations for one particular language. As you know, outside of WordPress core and the core package, there are thousands and thousands of plugins and themes on our repository waiting to be translated. So our project translation editors are the people that have the access and rights to approve translations on at least one of those projects. So, how many of all the WordPress installs use WordPress in a different language than the original? This is the statistic that will tell you that on install right now, 44% of all installs are installed in American English, which is the original. And every other install is done in one of our localized versions of WordPress, which technically means that 65.4% of all the WordPress installs are done in a different language than English. These are our top installs in languages other than English. The Spanish installs hold the highest percentage. And then we also have a lot of users using WordPress in Japanese, German, French. And the English UK is a fully localized version, which is getting a lot of attention every time there is a release. The localized versions of a particular language are versions that dedicated team localizes based on the way a language is used in one particular location. In the case of English UK, that's British English, obviously. But we also have a lot of Spanish variants and many more. So if WordPress powers 42% of the web, the localized packages of WordPress, the localized versions of WordPress power 23.4% of the web, which is a great number. These are thousands, if not millions, of sites that are used in a language that is not American English. We also have a lot of translation contributors and contributors that contribute in a different language than English in the support forums, with the Russian, Japanese, Dutch, Spanish, and Portuguese replies being the most right now. These are the most active forums. And the most currently active contributors are also in German, French, Dutch, Italian, and Brazilian Portuguese. Since last I joined, Help Hub has gained so much momentum, and we've had a lot of our translation contributors dig into translating documentation, which is an amazing initiative because a lot of people that use WordPress don't really speak English well. So having documentation in different languages is essential for the enablement of everybody and the accessibility of the WordPress project. There were several new translation projects added since the last WordPress translation day, including Learn WordPress, Block Patterns directory, Openverse, diverse speaker training, and the full site editing test calls. All right, and my favorite part of this is that now we've got a Polyglot contributor training course, which can teach you, if you're a new contributor, after logging in, it can teach you how to contribute to the Polyglots team and how to actually understand the software that powers the WordPress translations, our GlotPress install, TranslateWordPress.org. This is how many editor requests or new people joining and being able to approve translations have been posted in the past year. These requests are cared for by the Polyglots mentors. Big shout out to everybody that is mentoring the global Polyglots team. And we've had 24 local requests that were published. So 75% of all internet users don't speak English. This is data coming from Statista.com. And by translating WordPress, you're helping all of these people. This is who the Polyglots team benefits, and this is why we do what we do. We want to enable more people to be able to take advantage of everything that WordPress offers. Sorry. So together we can make a difference. The Polyglots team has always been around the world, and WordPress has always been a global project in its core. And this is a lot of this is due to the involvement of everybody translating WordPress. So happy Translation Day. Make sure you leave your questions. Make sure you join local events. Make sure you stay for the translation sprint. And if you do not have a WordPress.org username yet, log in, start there, and then jump to TranslateWordPress.org to find the language that you can contribute in. Thanks. And I am waiting for our MCs to get back in line, maybe.
Hello, Petya, and thank you for that. And welcome back to Erica as well. So the people who've just joined, this is WordPress Translation Day, 6th edition. And we are having WordPress Translation Day for a whole 30 days of September. I'm Abba Thakur, and I'm joined here by Erica and Petya. And we're so glad that you've joined the global event, and we hope that you will stay on and join for our live translation sprint, which follows this event. And if you've not booked already, you can go to WordPress Translation Day website or wordpress.org/news, and you can subscribe to the meetup to get the Zoom link. We do hope that you will join us, and we'll get lots of people translating from 11 o'clock UTC. So that's 11 o'clock UTC today. Right, now we're going to have a video a little bit later about translation, but in the meantime, we have some questions for our lovely guest today. So Petya, you talked about having 205 available locales. What does that mean?
This means that there are 205 different languages or language variants that WordPress can be translated in. This means that we have, I don't want to say 205 languages, but we have 205 different versions of WordPress that can be used by people based on the language that they speak and where they live in the world.
And does that mean that WordPress is fully available in all of its versions in 205 locales?
I wish. Well, this is what we're going after, right? But the actual number of released core packages is the number that we saw below that number. So we've got 61 released core packages. These are the translations that are full, that are complete, that we have, where we have 95% of all strings. String is a different piece of the software that speaks to users. We have 95% or more of the strings available for the user in that language, literally meaning WordPress is fully available in that language. Like the 5% that are left are probably development strings that have not been translated, maybe shouldn't be translated. That's a different topic. And then we have 64 packages that are partially released, which means that there is a percentage that is translated, but the locale still needs more work to get to 100%, so to be absolutely completely fully available. Usually when a team starts translating WordPress, they start with interface, they start with the front end. So our effort always goes towards being able to serve as many users as possible. So the administration, we kind of assume without really knowing, but we kind of assume that people using the administration are somewhat software savvy, meaning that they probably have some English speaking skills. So we try to translate the front end. We try to translate everything that speaks directly to users. And this is where we start. And that's why so many packages are only partially translated, because priority in string translation gives, we first translate, those strings that are visible to everyone. And then we go to the administration, and then we go to the deeper levels of the software, like development strings.
Thank you, Petya. Erica, you speak lots of languages. Just tell me, how many languages do you translate WordPress in?
Right now, only one. I would love to do more at some point in the future, but currently I contribute translations to the Brazilian Portuguese locale. So I felt some pride as we saw those slides a little bit earlier when Petya was sharing.
Thanks, Erica. And Petya, how did you get started in translation?
That's my favorite question. Most contributors get started with translation because WordPress is not translated in their language, or because there is something in the translation of their language that really bugs them. In my case, it's a really interesting origin story, actually, because the Bulgarian translation was one of the first translations started because the person that created WordPress is Bulgarian, and they translated. That's Nikolai Bachitsky, and he translated WordPress in Bulgarian. He did the first translation to WordPress in Bulgarian as he was developing the software, the basis, the core of the software that we use nowadays to translate the language. So Nikolai and I met in 2010, and at this time I was working for a WordPress agency that was developing sites using WordPress. So the Bulgarian translation at that point had stalled a little bit. It was 3+ versions behind, because at some point, Nikolai had stopped having time to continuously update it. So I said, let's create a team, and we gathered a couple of people that were interested in contributing translations. We did the translation for the current version. We updated all the strings. We created the documentation around consistency and translation in Bulgarian. We started developing the translation team. It was about a year later that I got involved with organizing the first WordCamp Europe. And after that, throughout the 2013, 2014, when the Global Community Summit happened in San Francisco, I had already started being involved with the global initiative as well. But I started as just a translator, as most people started.
And a real part of it. And I think it's a testimony to the fact that you must enjoy it, otherwise you wouldn't carry on doing it. And I think that hopefully will will be portrayed to the people watching today, and they'll feel that, okay, maybe I could do that too. So
yeah,
go ahead,
sorry.
Katia.
No, I was just gonna say that I started because of the work and the challenges that presented, but I stayed because of the people.
Stay because of the people. I think it's something that we hear all the time in the project, and it is, if you've not already involved with the WordPress community or don't know what WordPress community is, it is a whole huge community that surrounds the WordPress software and its resources, and everyone can get involved from whatever time zone and whatever country you are located in or that you are currently based in. There is opportunity for everybody, and we'll be talking about that a bit later today. Now I have a question from the audience, from WP Pompey. Is there I'm going to come back to that question because we have another question that's coming before that. So our next question was, how many active translators do you think there are in the project? Now that question is going out to the people who are watching today from their homes, their workplaces, or coffee shops. As we know, we've had a few people already say that they're translating in their coffee shop, social distancing, of course. So it's a hint. It was in the slide. So I would love to get some answers in the comments. And we have some wonderful people who are checking the comments to just work out what you think it was. Obviously, if you watch the presentation, you will already know. But it'd be interesting to find out. Without actually giving the figure away, I'm going to talk to Erica a little bit about general translation editors. We have 685 general translation editors at the moment in the project. Erica, could you share a little bit about what they do? And if somebody is watching this and thinking, I'd quite like to aspire to that, how do they do that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So just kind of to give the whole picture, I'm answering a little bit more than just what a general translation editor is. There are a few different roles within each language team. One is translator, which is something that anyone can do as long as you have a WordPress.org account. You can suggest a translation. After that, we have what are called project translation editors, and that is when you have permissions to review, approve, make changes to translation suggestions for a particular project in a specific language. So that could be a specific plugin, a specific theme, something like that. And general translation editors, then kind of expanding on that, are people who are really mentoring kind of the entire locale, doing a ton of work they can review submissions for any project, for WordPress core, for plugins, themes. And so those are folks who generally, when you first get started and submit your first translation and you have that next step of, okay, now go talk to your local team, go talk to the contributors in your locale to get those suggestions reviewed. Usually the person who's going to do that and who's going to give you feedback on that and tips is going to be a general translation editor, and they can provide that guidance and approve those suggestions for you.
Thank you, Erica. Appreciate you explaining that. Now, we've had a few answers that have come in on Facebook. I don't know if there's been any on the comments because I can't see that section, so I'm hoping someone can tell me. But Erica, I know you know the answer, so I won't ask you what the answer is, but we have people backstage as well. And I'm just seeing if they can tell me what people think the number of translations are. So while they're putting those in the comments, please do add yours too. But I can reveal 785 active translators. So the people who came the closest to it were on the Facebook, and they thought they were 15,000. And someone's just posted on the Facebook to me that there were, it feels like there must be at least 32,000. And he says that's because how much actually gets done. So, and I think that's a genuine comment, that translators work really hard. It is a lot of work, but it is a lot of fun. And the more fun it is when we work together. So if you want to help boost that number to that 32,000, maybe this time next year, maybe in a couple of years, but every translation, every string that is translated is appreciated, and all the efforts from every single Make team that today is working with us and making this event very special. Petya, I know you've got to you've got to go, but have you got any final comments before you leave us today?
I just want to thank everybody again, and you for emceeing the session, Erica for organizing everything, and everyone that's involved with organizing WordPress Translation Day. Just want to say, you don't have to only translate WordPress during translation days. TranslateWordPress.org is available every time. It is, in all honesty, my favorite way of procrastinating. You know, whenever I have a lot of work to do and don't know where to start, I usually just like head to TranslateWordPress.org and clear my head a little bit with like just running through suggested translations or like digging into a new project that I haven't seen before. And translating WordPress is a great way to learn WordPress. You reach parts of WordPress you never ever thought existed. So, you know, go ahead and dig in and have fun, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, and looking forward to translating alongside everyone.
Thank you, Petya. And I think there's a slogan in there, you know, that just dig in, and you reach parts of WordPress you never thought you'd reach before. So it's I like that. I think we have Olga with us, who's helping monitoring the chat, and with her advertising background, I'm sure she'll find a way to incorporate that into one of our slogans this week. And just to bring in, and we've had a comment in the chat, the total number of people that have any time contributed a translation is around 54,000. And Maher, thank you for reading my mind and putting that on the up on screen as well. That's amazing. 54,000. I think, Petya, that will warm your heart for the rest of the day. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm actually keeping up on the stats. They're something that I have never really lost touch on, and we're harassing the meta team of providing these starts backwards all the time. So yeah, I'm jumping off, everyone. Enjoy, and I will chat to you later.
Thank you, Petya.
Thank you, Petya. And Erica, thank you for staying with us. Before we go to the video, I just want to take some of the comments that have come in. So I've got 4 screens up at the moment, so I'm trying to read comments on each screen. And
Translation Day headquarters.
So it is. And unfortunately, 2 of them are not in English for me, so I'm translating the Italian and Spanish at the same time. So I may be sending those to you in a second. Right. So we have Devin with a wonderful comment, and she's one of our local organisers from Indonesia. And Indonesia, big shout out to the team. They are running translation events every day of September. They take WordPress Translation Day very seriously, and have so much fun as well. And Devon's put, translating to me is also an act of learning new things about WordPress, which is great. We have people from Malayalam who have run an event already this month and are having another event as well. You can go to WordPress Translation Day website and go to local events and find the expanding list, because they keep coming in, don't they, Erica? Every time we think, right, we've got all the events we're going to have, we get some more in, which is fantastic. So please do let us know if you're running any more. We've got the question that came up earlier about automatic translation. I see it's already been answered in the chat as well. So please do have a look at that too. And as Vlad says, they will be talking more about automatic translation tools on Sunday. So tune in on Sunday to our panel on Polyglot Tools. You can again find all the links on wptranslationday.org and go to our global events page, and you will have everything you need. I'm just having a quick look if I've missed any other questions that have come in. I think that's probably most of the sessions. I've been asked on Facebook again for the link to the meetup. The meetup link is on the homepage of wptranslationday.org, and it is just another YouTube video, and it's also on wordpress.org/news for those who are actually watching this live, and it's a meetup link, and you can get the Zoom link. It's actually very kindly hosted by the WordPress Pompey team, WordPress Portsmouth, and you can get the Zoom link there. So we have, before we flick across to the video, Erica, I have 2 more questions that have come in, and I'm trying to do my best to translate them as we're talking. So if I've understood correctly, one of them is from the Italian community, and she says that I don't live in Italy. I grew up in an Italian family, and I don't get the chance to practice my Italian. I'm now living in America, but I would like to take part. Would that be okay?
Yes, I love this question. I relate to it very deeply because obviously, or maybe not obviously, but I am a native English speaker, and I still contribute translations. And I mean, if you speak the language, it is get involved. In particular, the people I've spoken with on the Italian translation team, they have such a great community there. They have a mentorship program. They put a lot of effort into giving feedback to contributors and things like that. And I feel pretty confident saying that they would welcome you as well. And for anyone kind of in this situation, in this position where either it's a language maybe that you've grown up with, but you don't live in that country anymore, or you speak with your family, something like that, or you've learned and just developed an expertise over time, and it's just your second language that you deeply care about. I would recommend going to the Polyglots Handbook. If you go to make.wordpress.org/polyglots/handbook, you can find in there a list of all the Slack instances for each locale team, as well as each locale's Rosetta site, which is the localized WordPress.org site. And that is an excellent way to get in touch with that community. Once you start submitting translations, you can ask for help with getting those reviewed there, or you can also just reach out, ask for some input and guidance, and really just connect with the folks who are leading the localization and translation in that language. And yeah, like I said, I feel very confident they would be happy to welcome anyone. That is the WordPress spirit. So,
thank you, Erica, and thank you to Meher, who's just put up the handbooks link as well. So it's make.wordpress.org/polyglots/handbook. Very, very useful source. You can also follow Translate WP on Twitter, and we will be sharing WordPress resources on there, as well as all the information about upcoming events. So our other question that's come in, Erica, and there's one word that I can't translate, so I'm hoping I've got this right, is that why is there so many different teams for translating Spanish? Surely it would be easier if we only had one locale for each language, and then everybody would get through more translations.
Yeah, that is a great question. I forget the number of Spanish language variants that we have at this point. I think it's in the double digits. And this kind of, for me personally, this always comes down to the question of translation versus localization. I think I had a really lovely conversation once with Mark from the UK English locale, where I think someone had asked him a very similar question. If WordPress is in American English, it's in English, isn't that enough? And for me, and we had talked about this a little bit, and I just remember this conversation very vividly. I see that as the difference between being able to use WordPress and feeling like WordPress was made for you. I think when it's localized into your language variant, I think there's a lot of empowerment there. As Petya said earlier, anyone who's a polyglot or anyone who contributes translations, it's not just contributing translations. Most folks are also contributing to their local communities through organizing events, or maybe contributing to WordPress core documentation, translating documentation and things like that. And the more, while we could focus just on one language, since we have this opportunity to expand and localize into other variants of that language as well, it just makes it even more appropriate or an even greater connection to that specific version of Spanish. And so, I'm sure there's cases that could be made either way, but I do find it, personally, I see it as something very rewarding and inspiring to see so many different communities in different countries really adapting WordPress translations and the WordPress software itself to their specific community, so that it's even easier and more accessible, and even creates a sense of belonging for people in their specific version of Spanish or English or Dutch, whatever it may be.
Thank you, Erica, for a really good answer, and hopefully that answers the questions that came in that are similar as well. Now we're going to go to our video, and again this video will be available for people to play back, and it just helps you get started as an introduction to translation. After that video we will be jumping across to Zoom for a live translation sprint. Again, if you haven't already got your Zoom link, please go to wptranslation.org and you'll find it on there. You'll sign up to the meetup. In addition, we are back on Sunday with more live stream events. You can find the full global event list on the website, and on the 30th of September, which is International Translation Day, we hope that you will join us here, and we will be featuring lots of interviews with polyglots and also some fun and games, and we hope that you will want to be involved with that. So if you haven't already volunteered, you've still got time. You can contact us via the website or on the Polyglot Slack, and we look forward to seeing you on all of our occasions. And of course, keep translating. So if someone can press the magic button and we can get the video on screen, that would be lovely.
Let's start our live demonstration and see together step by step how to translate WordPress or your favorite themes or plugins. You see the WordPress.org site. Now, let's start from here. If you want to contribute to the WordPress community, then click here in the Get Involved menu item. You see all the ways you can contribute to WordPress, and scroll down, you'll find the polyglots. And this is the main page for the polyglots theme. This is some intro information, the polyglots blog, and this is the main menu from translations with a blue background. And we see some very useful menu items: themes, request, weekly chats, translate, and handbook. Now, how this workshop is going to be: first, we'll find a very simple string to translate to see the translation process, and we will also see what happens after the contribution. So let's start the translation. Click here in the Translate menu item. If you're not logged in, WordPress.org, then make sure you log in. If you don't have an account, click on this register link here. Let's log in. And here you see the list of all the available locals in WordPress. Now, let's search for our local. I'll choose Greek. And now that we'll find our local, it's time to choose a project. Here you can find in the WordPress tab, you see the WordPress core and all its versions. Then in the themes, you see all the themes available in the WordPress theme repository. The plugins, the same, all the plugins here available in WordPress. The meta information about WordPress and the WordPress apps. So let's pick a really easy thing to translate. Let's pick storefront theme.
We could also mention that there is one more way to find the specific translation project. If you're looking at the page for a certain plugin, it will say that this plugin is also available or is not yet available in your language if you have another language in your browser. And then it will just say help with the translation. And then you can come directly to your specific plugin, choose language, and take it further from there.
Yeah, thank you, Toby. And now let's pick the storefront theme. This is the one. The project is the storefront. The locale is Greek. And we also see the translation progress is 99% translated. We also see the sub-project. Here there is only one set of translations. And we see how many strings are translated, untranslated, waiting, or fuzzy. So let's click on this. And now we see a table with all the original strings and then the translations. We can also see the priority. And now in the top of the table, there is a very useful menu here where we can filter the strings below. So if we click all here, we see all the strings. We can see only the translated, and note that all the translated strings are green in color. We can also see the untranslating, all the strings waiting to be translated. Let's go back to all the strings. And now we can also sort the strings based on this criteria and filter also with Word, term scope, status, options, or the translator, click apply filters, and only the strings that apply will appear below. Let's close this and let's go translate our first string. Let's go to untranslated. And here we can pick translation here. So what we're seeing here, this is the original string waiting to be translated. We can also see the status, which is untranslated. Now, in this text area, we write our translation. And now that I write it, I can click suggest. So let's click it. So my contribution is done. I've contributed translation, and now we see that the color is this orange color, which means that this string is waiting. Waiting for what? Well, it waits for approval. Now, what happens next? Okay, let's see what's happened. Let's click here on the handbook. The handbook is a documentation for translators. This is a great piece of documentation, and if you want to contribute, you should really read this guide, read this handbook. I want to show you here, if you are new to translating, then about the Polyglots team section and the translating WordPress are the most important for a beginner. But I want to go here in the after your contribution and see what happens after we submit a suggestion. Now, when a new string is submitted, it must be reviewed and approved by a general translation editor for that local or a project translation editor. A general translation editor is a person who has the access to review and approve these waiting strings. The general translation editor can do this for the whole local. So there is some translation editors for the Greek local. It can review and approve all of the strings which apply to the Greek local. And also the project translation editor can do the same thing, but for a specific project, for a specific local. So now that we have submitted our translations, one of these, or a project translation editor or a general translation editor, must review our contribution and approve it. Contributor suggests translation, waits for review patiently, and then a translation editor approves the translation. And then if the translation is completed more than 90%, then the language pack gets generated within 30 minutes to an hour and will become available to our WordPress dashboards in the update section, so you can click update and use the updated language pack in our WordPress installation. There is a problem here that there is no notification to the translation editors when we submit a new string. So in some cases, your translation may be pending for quite a while. In this case, you have to find a translation editor for your local or your project, and you have to kindly remind him to review your contribution. And how to find these people. Okay, I'm in the Storefront project again, and now I see all the contributors that translated, but here on the right, I can see the translation editors. This one here is the project translation editors, and these are the general translation editors for the whole Greek local. So if I see that my suggestions are pending for quite a while, I can find one of these translators and ask them kindly to review my contribution and approve this. The other way to find them is to go to the teams page, and here I can find all the translation teams in all countries. So let's search again for Greek, click view team page, and this is the Greek translation page, and we can find all the contributors here from Greece. We can see the local manager, the general translation editors, this is what we are seeing before, and the project translation editors. Now, in these people, you see that there is username in Slack. This Slack is the global WordPress Slack for makewordpress.org. If you click on this, you will find the detailed guide how to join the global WordPress Slack. You can find them there and ask them to review your translation. There's also a Polyglot channel where we can join the discussion about translations. Now we have see the whole process of how to contribute, how to translate a string, and then how the approval process works.
So we seem to have lost how the approval process works. I wasn't sure if that's where the video was meant to cut off, but if not, then we will make sure that we have that available elsewhere. The whole video is available, and we have materials that are produced by WordCamp Europe this year as well that you will be able to watch and to play back. Thank you very much for the team who put that together, and we'll look forward to seeing more of those resources later this month. I'm going to take 2 more questions that have come in. We've been busy translating things here as they've come in, so it's been. I think we're doing our own little translation sprint here between us, Erica. It's been really busy. So Olga's just asked a question as well, which it's very enjoyable to make a translation from 99% to 100%. Olga translates into Russian from English, and has been translating not just the translation core packages, but also news stories. So if you think that you would actually like to translate a news story as well, go to wordpress.org/news. You can see stories like our People of WordPress series, which we're going to have a next installment in during Translation Week as well. You can speak to your locale about translating those. Also, you can translate items on Learn WordPress, and we have a subtitling sprint as well. Subtitling, in case you thought, what has that got to do with translation? It actually makes it so much easier for people to translate if they have those subtitles. And again, we'll be featuring more on that on our social media channels. So please do sign up to our channels, Translate WP on Twitter, WordPress Translation Day on LinkedIn and Facebook. The links have been shared in the comments as well. So you'll see on screen, it says you can watch the video about step-by-step WordPress translation guide on WordPress TV. If you haven't able to write down the link that is on screen at the moment, then just go to wordpress.tv and type in step-by-step WordPress translation, and it will come up with this link. It's a great video to watch, particularly when you're getting started, and you can pause it as you go along. So my final question, Erica, if you're happy to take it, is that there are so many people translating WordPress, and obviously every time a release comes out, there are new things to translate. But does that mean that they have to get started right from the beginning again, and they have to translate every element of the software right from scratch every time there is a new release?
No, it doesn't mean that. No, for new releases, as there are new strings added, those new strings will need to be translated. I believe, I looked recently, I believe the WordPress core project now is a couple thousand strings. And I will say, if you are just starting a new locale, if your language hasn't been active or was recently added to translate.wordpress.org, yes, you would be translating everything from scratch. And that's very much why it's always recommended to have multiple contributors. Really, I mean, it is a translation community, so having multiple people around you to help, since it is a lot of work for just one person. But for other languages and locales where there has been some progress made already, or you've had a core release relatively recently, you do not need to start from scratch. You will be translating new strings that have been added, and as well as anything else that maybe wasn't translated in the past. Though it's still good to have extra contributors and extra hands, because why not do it together? I think the phrase is many hands make light work, so that qualifies for all the projects.
Thank you, Erica. It's a really good answer. And again, just to reiterate, if you are joining a release and you are translating it, you do not have to start from scratch. I was surprised the amount of questions that we had on that. And apologies to the people who've been putting in questions from Facebook. They didn't actually appear until this morning. So we've been trying to take all that. And don't think we're going to ignore any of your questions. You can join us now live on Zoom, and we'll be able to take more of your questions, and you can take part in a bit of live translation as well. So it'd be great to see who's with us there. Please let us know which locale that you are translating for, where you're based if you're happy to, and we'll try and get some lovely statistics from that. In the meantime, we're signing off from YouTube today. Do catch up with our live streams the rest of the week. We have events happening now all the way through to the 30th of September. And don't forget, if you haven't already nominated somebody who you feel deserves a bit of polyglot appreciation, then the form is still available on wptranslationday.org. Get your nomination in. Thanks for joining us and keep translating.